I always thought my brother was a superhero. Not the kind in comic books. He didn't wear a cape, didn't fly, didn't shoot fireballs from his hands. But when you're 6 years old and there's someone who always steps into the darkness before you do, that is a superpower. His name is Alex. He's 3 years older than me, but it always felt like 20. He was taller, braver, and somehow knew how to fix everything. When I scraped my knees, he was the one who patched them up with cartoon bandages and said, "Don't tell Mom, she'll freak." He was the first to teach me how to ride a bike, the first to sneak me cookies after bedtime, and the first to punch the neighbor's kid in the face when he called me weird. I remember laughing blood on Alex's knuckles, me with my weird pigtails and missing teeth, thinking, yeah, I'm safe. But nothing could have prepared either of us for the fire. It happened on a winter night. I remember that more than anything, the cold outside, the warmth of the blankets, and the scratchy cartoon on TV. Mom had just put a casserole in the oven. Alex and I were in the living room. He was doing something with Legos and ignoring me in that cool big brother way. I was pestering him, trying to make him build a castle for my stuffed unicorn. The next thing I remember was the alarm. That sharp, screaming sound, like the walls themselves were howling. At first I thought it was part of the show, but then Alex looked up. His face changed, not scared exactly, just alert, focused. He jumped up, ran to the kitchen. "Mom," he called. There was no answer. I followed him barefoot on the cold floor. I didn't understand what I was seeing. Smoke, like thick gray fingers curling out from under the kitchen door. The oven light flickering through the haze. Then came the shouting. Mom's voice panicked. Then the crackling. A sound that to this day still wakes me up in cold sweats. Alex didn't hesitate. He pushed me back. "Go upstairs. Now." "What?" "Go." His voice cracked like thunder. I ran. Halfway up the stairs, I turned. He had already disappeared into the smoke. What happened next, I only remember in flashes. A lot of it's gone, maybe on purpose. I remember the way the air tasted, like charcoal and metal. I remember crouching in my room, coughing so hard I thought my lungs would fall out. I remember the door opening. Alex, covered in soot, eyes wild. He grabbed my arm. "I got you." I remember the stairs being on fire. He wrapped me in a blanket. I don't know where he even got it, and carried me down through the flames. I remember the door exploding open. Snow and sirens and people shouting. Cold air hitting my face so hard it burned. And I remember the moment he collapsed. They said he had second-degree burns on his arms and neck. Smoke inhalation, mild concussion. He didn't wake up until the next day. I wasn't allowed to see him at first. But when I did, I cried so hard I nearly threw up. He just smiled weakly and said, "Told you I got you." The fire destroyed most of the kitchen and part of the living room. Insurance covered some of it, but Mom had to take extra shifts. Dad had left long before that, so it was just the three of us. But everything changed after that night. Alex never talked about what he did, never let anyone praise him. When people called him a hero, he shrugged and said, "I just got her out." But I knew the truth. He didn't just save me from a fire. He chose me. He chose me over everything, over fear, over logic, over self-preservation. And maybe that's why what I did later hurts so much more. Because I didn't choose him back. Alex was supposed to go to college. He had the grades, straight A's, perfect attendance, 3 AP classes, and a recommendation letter from a teacher who called him the most selfless student I've ever taught. He'd gotten into a state university on a partial scholarship. Engineering, his dream. But after the fire, that dream just faded. At first, he said it was temporary, just until Mom could get back on her feet. She'd sprained her wrist in the chaos, couldn't cook for weeks, and the hospital bills were already stacking up. Our insurance covered part of it, but not all. There were deductibles, fees, damage to the house, repairs that couldn't wait. So Alex said, "I'll work for a while, maybe just a semester off." That semester turned into a year, then 2. Then it became our new normal. He got a job at a warehouse first, night shifts, hauling boxes, getting home when the sky was still dark. I remember hearing the door creak open around 6 a.m., the sound of his boots hitting the hallway floor, the way he dropped his bag and fall asleep on the couch without even changing out of his uniform. He never complained. When I asked him about college, he just shrugged. "I'll apply next year. Not a big deal." But every year something came up. Mom's car broke down. The water heater failed. I needed braces. He never said no, never even hesitated. He just picked up another shift. I didn't understand it then. I was a teenager wrapped up in my own little world. High school drama, crushes, Instagram, whether or not I made the cheer team. I thought Alex was being overdramatic. I thought he liked working. That maybe he just didn't want to leave. But now I know. He wasn't staying because he loved us. He was staying because he thought he owed us something, because he thought I was worth more than his future. The first time I saw him truly break was on my 17th birthday. We were sitting in the backyard, me, Alex, and Mom. A cheap cake from the grocery store, some balloons tied to the fence. I was wearing a crown someone gave me as a joke. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a card and a receipt. A full down payment for my driving lessons. I looked up confused. Where did you get the money for this? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Worked overtime. Again, I frowned. Alex, you look like a zombie. I'm fine. No, seriously, I pressed. You need to take a break. He sighed, rubbed his eyes. I'll rest when you get your license. I didn't say thank you. Instead, I rolled my eyes and muttered, well, I hope I don't crash and waste your precious overtime. He didn't answer. He just looked away. That night, I found him sitting alone in the garage. It was the one part of the house that hadn't been renovated since the fire. The walls still smelled faintly of ash and old paint. He sat on an overturned bucket, the beer in one hand, staring at the ceiling like it owed him an explanation. I stood in the doorway, awkward. Hey, I said. He didn't look at me. You were right. I look like a zombie. I stepped inside, arms folded. I didn't mean it like that. Silence. Then he said, did you know I got accepted to that school again? A week ago. I blinked. You reapplied? He nodded. Didn't tell Mom. Figured. Maybe it's not too late. I didn't know what to say. I was gonna go, Lee added, voice flat. But then her car died again. And you needed those SETI books. And I don't know. I'm just tired. My throat tightened. You should have told us. We could have figured something out. He laughed once, a short, bitter sound. You were busy planning prom. Mom was crying over bills. I didn't want to be another problem. He drained the last of the beer, stood up. Anyway, he said, brushing past me, happy birthday. I watched him go. And for the first time, I saw him not as a superhero, not as a savior, but as a 21-year-old kid who had been carrying the weight of two lives, mine and his, and was quietly breaking beneath it. And I didn't help. Not really. Not in the way he needed. I thought loving him was enough, but love without action is just decoration. When I left for college, Alex was the one who drove me. He packed my suitcase, loaded the trunk, even triple-checked my financial aid paperwork. Mom cried the whole morning. I think she was proud, but also terrified. About money, about me being on my own, about what it meant now that only one of us would get a real shot at life. Alex didn't cry. He just tightened the strap on the duffel bag and said, call me if you need anything. Seriously, anything. I promised I would. And at the time, I meant it. College was a different universe. Suddenly, I was surrounded by people who had always expected to be here. Girls with perfect white teeth and expensive shoes. Guys who talked about internships in DC and summer in Tuscany like they were talking about going to the store. I tried to keep in touch at first. I'd text Alex pictures of my dorm, send him memes, short little updates like professor is a troll or roommate chews with her mouth open. He always responded with a thumbs up or a lol. No punctuation, no follow-up. After a few weeks, I stopped trying. It wasn't that I didn't love him. I just got busy. There were classes to survive, parties to attend, student groups, late-night coffee runs, boys with guitars and soft eyes. For the first time in my life, no one saw me as Alex's little sister. I could be me, whatever that meant. I started dating a guy named Chris. He was pre-law, slick and confident with a voice that could melt you into the mattress. He liked how I laughed, how I wore my eyeliner. He said I was different from the other girls. I think I liked hearing that more than I liked him. Alex never met Chris. I mentioned him once in passing over a rushed phone call home. Are you seeing anyone? He'd asked, out of nowhere. Yeah, kind of. What's he like? Fine, I said quickly. Smart. You'd hate him. He chuckled. Yeah, probably. Then silence. I waited for him to say something more, to ask more, but he didn't. He just said cool, be safe, and hung up. Thanksgiving came. I didn't go home. I told Mom I had to work on a big project. The truth. Chris had invited me to his family's cabin for the weekend. There was wine and a fireplace and terrible karaoke. I laughed until my ribs ached. Somewhere between the second glass of rosé and the third round of charids, I realized I hadn't even texted Alex. I told myself I'd call him tomorrow. I didn't. When winter break rolled around, I finally went home. The house looked smaller somehow. The kitchen had new cabinets. Alex's handiwork, no doubt. Mom looked older. Alex looked tired. He had dark circles under his eyes, his hair was longer, messier. His hands were calloused in a way that didn't seem healthy. You okay? I asked, trying to sound casual. He shrugged, same as always. We didn't talk much that trip. He mostly worked, night shifts, weekends. When he was home, he'd be in the garage or on the phone with some utility company, arguing about payments. We had dinner once, just the two of us. I brought up college. He didn't seem interested. You love the debate team, I said. You always used to win arguments with Mom. He just smiled, but it was a tired, empty smile. Glad you're doing well, he said. That's all that matters. I wanted to scream, to shake him. What about you? Don't you matter? But I didn't say anything. I just nodded. I told myself he wanted this life, that I wasn't leaving him behind. He had just chosen a different path. That lie tasted sweeter than guilt. When I left again in January, he hugged me tighter than usual. Be safe, he said. And if that guy ever hurts you, I know, I said, smiling. You'll kill him. But the truth was, Alex didn't know anything about Chris. Not really. He didn't know about the time Chris yelled at me in the parking lot, or how he hated when I wore too much makeup, or how he made me delete old photos with male friends out of respect. I should have told Alex. I didn't, and I did know it then, but the silence between us had already grown too wide to cross. I first met Lena on a Sunday afternoon during spring break. I hadn't planned to go home. Honestly, I was going to use the week to catch up on assignments and avoid Chris, who'd been acting weird for days, but Mom begged. Just a weekend, she said. Alex asked about you, said he hasn't heard your voice in weeks. Guilt is a powerful motivator. So I packed a bag, got on the bus, and 3 hours later I was back in the same living room where we used to build pillow forts. Only now there was a stranger sitting on the couch. She looked up when I walked in. Slim, short, dark hair in a messy bun, ripped jeans, and a knitted sweater that looked older than both of us. She smiled, awkward but warm. You must be the famous little sister, she said, standing. I'm Lena. I blinked. Hi. Alex came in from the kitchen, holding 2 mugs. Hey, girly. I texted. My phone's dead. He handed 1 mug to Lena and gave her a look, soft, protective. The kind of look that curled something ugly in my chest. We didn't get along right away. Lena was nice. Too nice. She asked questions about my classes, laughed at my jokes, even offered to help with dinner. But there was something about her that annoyed me. Maybe it was her effortless warmth. Maybe it was how comfortable she looked in our house. Maybe it was because, in that moment, she seemed to know Alex better than I did. She sat next to him at dinner. They shared little glances, finished each other's sentences. When Mom asked how they met, Lena said he fixed the espresso machine at the bookstore I work at. I thought he was just the repair guy. Turns out he reads a lot of poetry. Alex blushed. I stared. Poetry. I scoffed. Since when do you read anything besides car manuals? He gave me a small smile. Since you stopped leaving books lying around. That night, I found them in the garage. Lena was sitting on the floor wrapped in one of Alex's old hoodies. He was sketching something in a notebook, some mechanical diagram maybe. They looked like they belonged there. Invisible, I stood in the doorway, watching them. I think your sister hates me, Lena whispered. She doesn't, Alex said without looking up. She didn't talk to me once during dinner. She's just overwhelmed. Lena sighed. She doesn't know what you've given up, does she? He finally looked up. It's not about that. She should know. Alex closed the notebook and rubbed his forehead. Please don't make this a thing. She's been through a lot too. That stung. Not because it wasn't true, but because in that moment I realized he was defending her to me. The next morning I cornered him in the kitchen. Where'd you meet her again? He poured coffee without looking at me. The bookstore. She seems intense. She's kind. Right? But do you think she's really what? He asked, finally turning. I paused. Good for you. He stared at me for a long moment. What are you trying to say? I shrugged. I don't know. Just surprised, I guess. She's not your type. He exhaled sharply, put the mug down with a clink. I don't have a type, Meg. You can go on. You don't know me anymore. That hit harder than I expected. I'm just looking out for you, I said quietly. No, he said, voice firm. You're judging someone you don't even know. I wanted to argue. I wanted to scream she's not good enough for you. But I didn't have a reason. Just a feeling. A tight, bitter knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. Later that day, Lena found me in the backyard. She sat beside me on the patio bench, pulling her knees up to her chest. I get it, she said softly. You're protective of him. I didn't respond. I was too with my little brother, before he died. That caught me off guard. He got leukemia, she continued. I was 17. I thought I could fix him if I just stayed close enough. Loved him enough. She looked at me. Her eyes weren't soft anymore. They were tired, real. I'm not here to steal your brother, Megan. I'm just here because I love him. and because he deserves someone to love him back. I didn't say anything, because deep down I knew she was right, and I hated her for it. It happened on a Wednesday night. I wish I could say I was drunk. I wish I could say I didn't know what I was doing. I wish I could wrap it all in some dramatic excuse, heartbreak, trauma, confusion, and make it sound tragic instead of what it actually was, a choice. Chris and I had just broken up. Technically, he dumped me, in the middle of a crowded library, whisper shouting that I was clingy and needy and a distraction from his career. He made it sound like dating me was an inconvenience he had politely tolerated. I didn't cry, not right away. But that night, in my dorm room, everything cracked. The shame, the anger, the feeling that I had given so much to someone who never really saw me. I opened my phone and hovered over Alex's contact, but I didn't call him. Instead, I scrolled through recent texts and stopped at one from Lena. She sent it 2 days earlier, just a casual check-in. Hey, how's school going? Let me know if you ever want to chat. Seriously. I don't know why I texted her. Maybe because I didn't want to feel pathetic. Maybe because she seemed safe. Or maybe because some small, selfish part of me wanted to poke something I shouldn't. I replied, actually, could use a distraction. We met at a small bar near campus. It was quiet, cozy, lit by strings of Edison bulbs and candles and empty wine bottles. Lena wore a denim jacket over a faded Joy Division tee. I wore eyeliner too thick and a fake smile. She hugged me when she saw me. I'm really glad you called, she said. Yeah, I replied, me too. We ordered drinks. Talked about nothing. Music, books, college stress. It was easy. Too easy. I didn't have to explain myself to her. She already got it. Alex doesn't talk about you much, she said at one point. That stung. Oh, I mean, not in a bad way, she added quickly. I think it hurts him. You being so far away. I looked down at my drink. I didn't mean to drift. I know, she said, but he really misses you. We didn't talk about Alex after that. At some point, the bar closed. We weren't ready to go home. So we walked through side streets, past neon signs, and the flicker of apartments where other lives were happening. She told me about her art, the things she never showed Alex. I told her about Chris, how he made me feel like a side quest in his life. She couldn't judge. She just listened. And when we stopped the footbridge behind my dorm, when she reached for my hand when I didn't pull away, it didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like a secret, a breath no one else would ever hear. We kissed, just once, and then again, and again, and eventually, we didn't stop. I woke up in my bed, tangled in guilt and silence. Lena was gone. There was a note on my desk. I'm sorry. I didn't plan this. Neither did you. Let's figure this out. Please. I stared at the paper for what felt like an hour. I didn't text her. I didn't text Alex. I just sat there, replaying the night in my head over and over until it stopped feeling like a dream and started feeling like a scar. For 2 weeks, I heard nothing. Then one night, my phone buzzed. A message from Alex. Did you sleep with her? No hello, no context. Just that. My hands went numb. I typed. Alex, But he'd already sent another. Just tell me the truth. I'd wanted to lie. To say it was a mistake. To say I was drunk. To say Lena had started it. But every word I tried to type felt thinner than air. So I wrote, yes. And after that, he didn't reply. Not that day. Not that week. Not ever again. After I sent that message, yes, I stared at the screen for hours. No dots. No reply. Not even a blocked notification. Just nothing. It was like he deleted me in real time without ceremony, without a goodbye. And for the first time in my life, I knew what it felt like to become invisible to someone who used to see everything in you. Lena texted me twice after that. The first said, he knows. I'm so sorry. The second, I'm leaving town. I hope someday you understand why I had to. And then she was gone too. No calls, no explanations. Her number eventually went dark. I even tried messaging her on Instagram, but her account had disappeared. Like she had folded herself into some other timeline where none of this ever happened. I could have blamed her. Said she seduced me. Said it wasn't love, just a moment of broken people clinging to each other. But none of that would be true. And the ugliest part was I didn't regret it at first. Not in the immediate, raw aftermath. I was still too caught in the adrenaline and drama of it all. My brain kept saying, at least something finally happened. At least something shook us all awake. But eventually, the shame came crawling back like smoke under a door. I went home 2 months later. Mom greeted me with open arms, smiling through her exhaustion. The kitchen was cleaner than I remembered, the wallpaper new. She asked how finals were. I lied. Then I asked the question I'd been dreading. Is Alex here? Her smile faltered. He moved out a few weeks ago. What? Said he needed space, a fresh start. He got a job offer a few towns over. Didn't say much else. Did he say goodbye? She hesitated. To me, yes. And then quietly, not to you. I stood in the hallway, holding my overnight bag like it was full of stones. It had happened. He was really gone. And it was because of me. That night, I wandered into the garage. It looked almost the same, except emptier. The sketchbooks were gone. So were his tools. All that was left was an old folding chair, a few nails scattered on the floor, and a dent in the wall from when he'd once punched it after a fight with Dad. I sat on the cold concrete and cried for the first time in years. I cried like a child, loud, messy, shaking. For him, for me, for what we used to be. Because Alex hadn't just left the house. He'd left me. The little sister he carried through fire. The girl he worked night shifts to protect. The one he thought he could trust with his heart. I tried reaching out after that. Texts, emails, voicemails. Please talk to me. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. You don't have to forgive me. Just let me know you're okay. Nothing. Not even read receipts. Eventually, his number stopped working. His social media disappeared. He erased himself from my world so thoroughly, it felt like I had never existed in his. I told myself I deserved it, that this was the price I had to pay. But guilt isn't a straight line. It loops, spirals. Sometimes it's quiet, just a dull ache behind your eyes. Other times it explodes when someone asks, "Do you have siblings?" And you hesitate too long before saying, "I used to." One day, Mom handed me a box. "You left this behind," she said. Said if you ever asked, I could give it to you. Inside, a stack of old photos. My 8th grade drawing of a stick figure version of him with a cape. The receipt from the bookstore where he met Lena. And a letter. I didn't open it right away. I carried it around for weeks, in my backpack. In my jacket pocket, I'd pull it out, unfold it halfway, then freeze. It felt radioactive. Like the moment I read it, something inside me would permanently collapse. When I finally read it, it was short. His handwriting was messy, rushed. Like he didn't want to spend too much time writing to someone he no longer trusted. Megan, I don't hate you. I wish I did. It would be easier. But you were the person I built my life around, the reason I stayed, the reason I didn't run when everything was burning. And you still chose to light another match. I can't carry this anymore. Good luck. I hope you find peace. Alex. I read it over and over. I wanted to scream, to call them, to throw the box across the room and break every frame inside it. But I didn't. I just sat there, letting the weight of every sentence sink into my skin. He didn't hate me. That was worse. Because if he had, maybe he'd come back just to shout, just to fight. But this was surrender. And there's no coming back from that. Time has a way of dulling pain, but it never erases it. It's been almost 3 years since Alex disappeared from my life. 3 birthdays, 3 Thanksgivings, 3 quiet Christmases where his empty seat at the table felt louder than any argument we ever had. People think grief is something you only feel when someone dies. But the truth is, losing someone who chooses to walk away from you, that grief lingers in a different, crueler way. It follows you to job interviews, dates, grocery store aisles. It whispers in your ear when someone says sibling, or when you see a guy fixing his bike, and for half a second your brain screams Alex. He was the ghost in every room. And I kept living with him even after he was gone. I moved to a new city after graduation. Got an okay job in marketing, rented a small studio with creaky floors and an ancient radiator. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The kind of independence I used to think would make me feel powerful. Instead, it just made the silence louder. Most nights I'd come home, heat up something frozen and stare at the ceiling. No texts, no updates, no Alex. I tried dating again, tried to let someone in. But every time it got close, too close, I'd find a reason to pull away. They'd say something simple like, "So tell me about your family," and my throat would close like a fist. Because how do you explain that your brother once saved your life and you returned the favor by wrecking his? I started therapy. At first, I lied to the therapist. Told her I just wanted help with stress and motivation. She saw through it, of course. It always do. Eventually, the truth spilled out in broken, out-of-order fragments. About the fire. About Alex staying behind. About Lena. About that one night. She didn't judge. She asked the questions I didn't want to answer, especially one that haunted me for weeks. If you walked back into your life tomorrow, what would you say? I didn't have a good answer. Just a lump in my throat and 1,000 unsent apologies. Mom and I stayed in touch, but even that felt fragile. We talk every Sunday, safe topics, weather, work, whatever show she was watching. Neither of us mentioned Alex. It was like saying his name would shatter something between us. Until one afternoon when she broke the pattern. I saw someone who looked like him, she said. I froze. Where? A gas station near I-75. It probably wasn't him. But the way he walked, I don't know. I waited for her to ask me to look for him. She didn't. Instead, she sighed and said, "You'd think it would get easier, not having him around. It doesn't." I didn't respond. What could I say? I made it this way. A few months later, it happened. I was cleaning out old emails, trying to unsubscribe from years of junk when I saw it. A name. Not Alex, but one I hadn't seen in years. Lena. No subject line, just a blank message with a PDF attachment. I stared at it for minutes. Was it spam? Some glitch? But the sender's address, I recognized it. Her old Gmail. The one she'd used when she and Alex were still together. I clicked. Against all better judgment, against the screaming in my chest, I clicked. Inside the PDF was a single page. A photo of a baby, wrapped in a blue knit blanket, sleeping peacefully. And beneath it, handwritten in black ink. His name is Elijah. He has your brother's eyes. I thought you should know. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted the truth to find you eventually. Lena. I dropped the laptop. My heart was pounding so hard I couldn't breathe. Alex. A father. Somewhere out there, he was living a whole other life. And he hadn't told me. Hadn't told Mom. Hadn't told anyone. But Lena had. She had reached across the silence to give me a sliver of truth. And with it came a realization that knocked the wind out of me. I wasn't the center of Alex's world anymore. Someone else was. Someone small. Someone innocent. Someone who deserved a version of him I never got to meet. That night, I sat at my desk for hours, staring at that photo, at those eyes. I thought about writing back. Thought about begging for an address, a second chance, even just a chance to see him, to say I was sorry. But instead, I did something else. I printed the photo. I put it in a frame. And I placed it on the shelf, right next to the old letter he once left me. Because even if I never see him again, I want to remember who he became. Not just the brother who saved me, but the man who finally saved himself. For 2 weeks, I did nothing. I went to work. I ate. I slept. But every thought, every breath circled back to that one image. A baby, eyes closed, face soft and unfamiliar and still unmistakably his. Elijah. That name haunted me. I whispered it to myself when brushing my teeth, mouthed it in meetings, wrote it in the margins of old notebooks like a secret prayer. It felt like the universe had opened a door, and I didn't know whether to walk through or run away. Eventually, I called my mom. I didn't plan to tell her. But the words burst out halfway through a conversation about nothing. I think Alex has a son. There was silence on the line. Then softly, "What?" I explained everything. The email, the photo, Lena's message. I braced myself for anger, but it never came. Instead, she just whispered, "I always knew he'd make a good father." Her voice cracked. I bit my lip. "Do you hate me?" "For what?" "For everything." She was quiet again, then said, "Megan, I hated a lot of things over the years, but never you. Just the choices we all made. And for the first time in years, I let myself cry, not out of shame, but release." That night, I opened my laptop and searched. I typed in Lena's name. No results. Then Alex's. Still nothing. Then on a whim, I searched Elijah. A long shot. But on the fourth page of results, buried under baby blogs and religious parenting posts, I saw it. A photo, not the same one Lena sent. This one was blurrier in a community newsletter posted online. A small local story. Bookshop hosts story time for young readers. And there he was. Elijah, now a toddler, sitting cross-legged on a rug with a picture book in his lap. Beside him, holding the book open, was a man. Tall, dark-haired, tired smile. Alex. My heart nearly stopped. The caption read, "Alex Rowe, owner of Second Chapter Books, leads this week's Read Aloud." That was it. An address. A town name. A bookstore. And just like that, I had a destination. I didn't tell anyone I was going. No dramatic road trip playlist. No monologue. I just packed a bag, got in my car, and drove. 4 hours of winding back roads and half-abandoned towns. I watched trees blur by and tried to imagine what I would say when I saw him. Would he slam the door in my face? Would he ignore me completely? Would he call security? I rehearsed 100 versions of the conversation in my head. None of them felt right. When I finally pulled into the tiny parking lot behind the bookstore, I thought I might throw up. It was charming. Brick walls, faded blue awning. Second chapter books was painted by hand in uneven white lettering. A bell jingled as I stepped inside. The scent of old pages hit me like a wave of memory. I used to love this smell as a kid. Alex did too. There were maybe 5 people browsing. A teenage girl flipping through manga, a couple in the corner, and behind the counter, him. He didn't see me at first. He was scanning a book, laughing softly at something a little boy said. Elijah, I realized. Then he looked up and froze. Our eyes locked, and for a second, time shattered. He looked different, older, not just in his face, in his energy. Like someone who had stopped running but never stopped hurting. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. He blinked, swallowed. Then, without a word, he said to one of the employees, "Can you take over for a bit?" She nodded. Alex came around the counter. He walked past Elijah, placing a hand gently on his son's head, a gesture so simple, so familiar that I almost burst into tears. He stepped outside. I followed. We stood in silence by the alley next to the building. No words, no noise, just wind and the low hum of traffic. Finally, he spoke. "You found me?" I nodded. I wasn't sure I should. He stared at the ground. I wasn't sure I wanted you to. Another long pause. Then I said it. "I'm sorry." He didn't move. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," I added quickly. I needed you to know that I've changed. That I spent every day since you left trying to undo something that can't be undone." He looked up. His eyes weren't cold, just tired. "Why now?" he asked. "Because I saw his face," I whispered, "and I realized he deserves to know who you were before all this, who we were, and I needed to tell you, thank you. For everything you gave me, even when I didn't deserve it." He nodded once, slowly, like the words were landing somewhere far away where it still hurt to hear them. "I don't know what to do with this," he said softly. "You don't have to do anything," I replied. I wanted you to see me again, even if it's the last time." He didn't reply. He just stood there, breathing. And after a minute, he asked quietly, "Do you want to meet him?" For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. "Do you want to meet him?" The question hung in the air like it didn't belong in this reality, like it had slipped in from some parallel timeline where I hadn't ruined everything. I blinked. "Are you sure?" Alex didn't answer right away. He just looked at me, really looked, and something in his expression softened. Not warmth exactly, but not the ice I'd expected. "I don't know if I'll ever be sure about anything with you again," he said quietly, "but he deserves to know where he came from. And you deserve to see what I've been trying to protect." I nodded, afraid that if I spoke, I might break whatever fragile thread was tying us together in that moment. He turned, walked back into the bookstore, and I followed, heart pounding like I was about to walk into a courtroom or a church or a memory I wasn't ready to relive. Elijah was still on the rug, flipping through a picture book with the kind of intense concentration only toddlers can manage. He was humming to himself, legs swinging. When he saw Alex, his face lit up. "Dada." He held the book up like a prize. Alex knelt beside him. "I've got someone I want you to meet, buddy." Elijah looked up at me, eyes wide and curious. Then, without hesitation, he stood, still gripping the book in one hand, and toddled toward me. "Hi," he said. I knelt down. "Hi, Elijah." He looked at me, tilting his head. "You look like my dada." I smiled, the kind of smile that feels like it's made of glass. I get that a lot. He was beautiful. That's the word that kept echoing in my head. Not cute, not sweet, not adorable. Beautiful. He had Alex's eyes, that stormy gray blue that always looked like they knew more than they were saying. But his smile, it was different. Softer, lighter, like it hadn't been touched by grief yet. He showed me his book, something about animals that wear hats. He pointed to a cartoon fox in a top hat and said, "That one's me." I nodded solemnly. "I see the resemblance." He laughed, a full, belly-deep laugh that cracked something inside me. I wasn't sure if it was guilt or awe or the realization that this was what Alex had built in the ruins I left behind. We sat there on the rug for maybe 15 minutes, maybe longer. Elijah told me all about his favorite snacks, blue yogurt, not red yogurt, his favorite dinosaur, Stegosaurus, and his best friend at daycare, a girl named Sasha who knows how to do magic. I nodded and laughed and asked questions. And all the while, Alex stood back, watching. Not protectively, not like a guard dog, but like someone holding his breath, waiting to see if the house would catch fire again. Eventually, Elijah was called away by one of the employees to pick a sticker from the big reader jar. He ran off without hesitation, still clutching his book. And then it was just the two of us again. I turned to Alex. "Thank you," I said. He nodded. "He's everything." "I can see that." Silence. Then I asked it, the thing I'd wanted to ask from the moment I saw the photo. "Does he know about Lena?" His jaw tightened slightly, but he nodded. "He knows she's not here, that she loved him very much. When he's older, I'll tell him more." I hesitated. "Do you ever hear from her?" "No," he said. "That email to you, that was the last time. I think she wanted a clean break. And you?" He shrugged. "Some days I hate her. Some days I understand. Most days, I just focus on him." I looked around the store, the little reading corner, the handwritten signs, the sleepy golden light drifting through the windows. "It suits you," I said. "What?" "This life. The bookstore. Fatherhood." He looked down, hands in his pockets. "I built it from pieces. You built something better than I ever did." He looked up then, not angry, not resentful. "Just tired. Macon, I didn't bring you here to fight, or to compare scars. I brought you here because I needed you to see who I am now, not for your closure, for mine. I understand. I believe you." Another pause. Then he added, "But that doesn't mean you get to be a part of this." I nodded, blinking back a sting. I figured. "You don't just get to show up and become an aunt because you feel guilty." "I know, but maybe." He looked at Elijah, who was now sticking a purple star on his shirt. "Maybe there's room for something new, something honest, if you earn it." I smiled, not because it was easy, but because for the first time in years I saw a crack of light in the door I thought was shut forever. And I realized, maybe this wasn't the end of our story. Maybe it was just a new chapter. I haven't told Elijah the whole story, and maybe I never will. He knows me now as Meg, the lady who visits, sometimes with stickers in her bag and a clumsy way of reading books upside down just to make him laugh. He thinks I'm funny. He thinks I'm nice. And that's enough. For now. Because the truth, he doesn't need to carry the weight of who I used to be. He doesn't need to know that I once betrayed the person who loved me most. That I once mistook self-destruction for independence. That I'd once burned down the very thing that saved me. Let him grow without that smoke in his lungs. It's been almost a year since I saw Alex in that bookstore. We don't talk often. A few texts, an occasional email. Sometimes a photo of Elijah playing in the mud or wearing a superhero cape 3 sizes too big. I print every single one and tape them to the fridge in my tiny apartment. It's a slow rebuild, not of our relationship, but of who I am to him now. Not the sister he used to know, not the villain of his past, something in between, something real. I don't ask for more than that, because real is enough. I've gone back to school. Not because I want a degree on the wall, but because I want to teach. I want to stand in front of kids who feel like the world is slipping from their fingers and say, you're allowed to be more than your mistakes. And maybe, deep down, I hope that if I can give them that truth, I can keep giving it to myself. There are days when I still wake up and expect a message from Alex saying, "Changed my mind, stay away." And there are days when I draft long letters to Lena that I'll never send. Letters full of apologies, of thanks, of questions I'll never have answered. Do you miss him? Do you miss me? Was it ever real? But mostly, I just live. Quietly, intentionally. I water my plants, I journal. I ride the bus and smile at strangers who look like they're having the kind of day I used to call home. I'm learning that redemption doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it's in showing up, again and again, with no expectation of reward. Just the willingness to be better than you were yesterday. A few weeks ago, Elijah called me Auntie Meg for the first time. No one told him to. It was just a quiet moment in the middle of a board game. He knocked over a stack of wooden blocks, looked up and said, "Hoops. Your turn, Auntie Meg." I froze. Alex glanced at me. Our eyes met. And he didn't flinch, didn't correct him, didn't pull him away. He just smiled, barely, and kept playing. And that, more than any apology, felt like grace. I will never get back what I lost. There will always be a scar in the shape of my brother's silence, a part of our childhood forever scorched by choices I can't undo. But in that scar, something has taken root. Not forgiveness, not exactly, but maybe something even more sacred. Understanding. I think we're all just trying to write better endings for the stories we thought were over. We fail. We heal. We try again. And maybe that's the best any of us can do. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever be his sister the way I once was. But I do know this. The girl who walked into that bookstore was ready to beg for redemption. The woman who walked out was ready to earn it, one small moment at a time. And Elijah, he'll grow up with stories, some true, some softened by time. Stories about how his dad used to fix everything, how he read poetry in the garage, how he once ran through fire to save someone who forgot how to love him back until it was almost too late. But there's one story I'll never tell him. The one where I burned it all down, because that's my burden, not his. His story starts in a bookstore, with a picture book, a fox in a top hat, and his second chance. And let me know if you'd like.